influencers and selected groups on the theme Consensus Building for National Peace, Cohesion and Confidence in the Muhammadu Buhari administration, the youth and Nigeria of our dream. Ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and sisters, fellow compatriots, my dependable allies, I stand before you all to salute your courage and to say, arise, O compatriots. Nigeria call, obey, to serve our father's land with love, strength, and faith. I stand before you all to salute the resilient Nigerian spirit that flows in our vein, that never say die spirit that continues to weather the storm of life with love and strength and faith, in the absolute belief that indeed one day Nigeria shall attain the greatness we all desire. The meeting today is to provide leadership at a critical period of our national development as youths and leaders of our country, thereby reaffirming the Nigeria spirits. It is not by accident that we are all gathered here. Instead, it is a function of that collective resolve to stand firm even in sinking sand. With our hands together, we stayed afloat to the surprise of those that think they can bring an end to Nigeria through an action, believing that Nigeria will go up in flames. We should all make no mistake about our gathering. I know that some mischief makers have been propagating falsehood in the puerile attempt to hit the polity. But through our actions and conduct, we have indeed proved all of them wrong. We are not troublemakers. We are not armed with dangerous weapons, but we are armed with an undying resolve to see to the realization of the better Nigeria for this generation and the generation yet unborn. This meeting is for Nigeria, and this much has resonated across the nooks and crannies of Nigeria, our dear country, the country of our birth. If no one believes in the country, we the youth believe in this country. And that is why we are here, having achieved the objectives of the Endsars campaign. I know that when we participate in the Endsars campaign across the country, some people thought we are out for mischiefs. But little do they know that our agitations were genuinely born out of that burning desire to see to an end of police brutality in the country. Consequently, we made 5 demands, which included the halting use of force against protesters, an unconditional release of arrested citizens, which for the victim of police brutality, including payment of compensations, and the psychological evaluation of police officers, including increasing their salaries, which the federal government has graciously granted with magnanimity. It does indicate that we have a responsive government, which by every stretch of the imagination has done nobly. This is consequently a no victor, no vanquished situation. Hence, the need for us to assess our gains and rejig our strategy. This accordingly accounts for why we are here, to marshal strategy that will translate our hopes and aspiration into tangible realities in the overall interest of our dear country. I want to thank all the youths of Nigeria that genuinely stood for the reforms in the Nigerian police force and other facets of our national life. It indeed takes a whole lot of courage for such to be achieved. We have proved that once there is a will, there will always be a way. We have also demonstrated that our peaceful protests was not to score cheap political points, and this fact indeed guided our conduct throughout the Endsars protests. This is no longer the Endsars protests, but a march for Nigeria in appreciation of all of us for the successes recorded in the past week and to forge ahead in the sustenance of democracy in Nigeria. Indeed, sacrifices were made, some of which resulted in death as a result of activities of some hoodlums that attempted to infiltrate our ranks to crash on our peaceful protests to their advantage. By so doing, I will please urge all of us to just stand up to observe a minute silence for those that fall during the course of the struggle.
Such that protesters were being transported to locations in addition to being fed with delicious and expensive meals. Those identified to have at various times financed the protest included a circuit of internet fraudsters, popularly known as Yahoo Boys, the LGBTQ community, owners of mega churches, the opposition, and some international NGOs. Incitement was done by renowned clergymen, social media influencers, opposition leaders, and celebrities. The protesters became belligerent and began obstructing major roads and highways, which caused discomfort to Nigerians and sabotaged the Nigerian economy. It was noted that under yet to be fully comprehended circumstances, pandemonium occasioned by reported gunshots at Lekki Toll Plaza in Lagos State on October 2020 was used as ground zero for the start of industrial-scale arson, looting, and killing of innocent persons. The incident was also used to keep up a major international offensive against the country with a view to forcing international sanctions. In the aftermath of the Lekki incident, security personnel had been targeted, attacked, and killed in addition to the more than 250 billion in damages, while the true economic toll is projected to be in the region of 3 trillion. The protesters continue to insist that Mr. President must address them while accusing the government of not being responsive. It was also found out that mob was not mindless as previously thought. A fugitive terrorist and militant leader of the now proscribed terrorist group Indigenous Peoples of Biafra by name Nnamdi Kanu actively coordinated the attacks on businesses while the leaders of the hit squad reported back to him. This orgy of arson took place in spite of the fundamental fact that the protesters were not able to substantiate their claim of massacre. After a night of misplaced and misdirected outrage, the nation woke up the following day to not find any corpse, even when the protesters had alleged that 78 persons were killed. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu confirmed there were no casualties from the pandemonium. One of the instigators, Enough is Enough, EI, recanted its earlier claim that CCTV cameras were sabotaged before the incident, as it admitted what was removed from the plaza were plate number cameras that the operators removed for safekeeping upon learning that the protesters were going to vandalize the place. The billboard that was turned off was a matter of business decision and not on the directive of the state as protesters had alleged. The entire claim of Lekki Toll Plaza massacre was a hoax choreographed by one Obianuju Kadare Ude aka DJ Switch. The global outrage was heightened by the deployment of fake news that included sharing of pictures from movies and presenting them as casualties from the protests. Publication of pictures of accident casualties and claiming they died in the protest. Recirculation of old media and claiming the incidents portrayed in them happened in the protest. Local and international media have been hoodwinked and they have fallen for these fake news merchants and fake news items, especially on their online and social media platform, without having the courtesy to apologize and make correction when they found out that they misled their audiences. Furthermore, there has been a deliberate blackout or reporting the atrocities of the protesters as they loot and commit arson. Where there is any report, they are conveniently explained away as hoodlums that infiltrated the protest. Several nations, the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Canada, the European Union and other countries have condemned Nigeria without getting the correct details of what transpired. The United Nations, African Union, the International Criminal Court, Amnesty International, and other organizations have similarly aired. US politicians, especially the Democratic candidate for the presidential election, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, members of the US Congress, members of the UK Parliament, foreign celebrities, among others, have made intervention without the benefit of the facts. The ignorance on the part of the above identified was exacerbated by the international media organization like the CNN, which threw away journalistic ethics to act as channels for being fake news. President Muhammad Buhari in his magnanimity addressed the nation as a father. He has demonstrated that the government is saddened by the losses arising from the protest, even as he confirmed that the demands of the protesters were already being met before protests were hijacked by criminals. The president's speech assured that Nigeria will weather the storm. The many youth initiatives of his administration, he revealed, deserve to be supported and promoted. Note: after exhaustive deliberations on the observation made, participants noted that the protests were hijacked by hoodlums, which appears to be the original plans of the organizers, who had refused to identify leaders or representatives to dialogue with government. The protests were exploited by cyber terrorists, bandits, and cloud-chasing internet celebrities who leverage the anonymity provided by online platform to incite unsuspecting Nigerian youth to attack their own country. The President Muhammad Buhari-led federal government was responsive enough, just as it was measured in being accommodating and tolerant of the protesters, even in the face of unwarranted provocation of the state and law-avoiding Nigerians. There was no massacre anywhere in Nigeria. Let it be known, there was no massacre anywhere in Nigeria. A massacre will have been there for everyone to see, as opposed to the situation where the protesters resorted to revisionism in their desperation to make their claim. Pass integrity test in the face of lacking evidence. It is important for the federal government to initiate additional measures to address the terrorist infiltration and hijack of an initially peaceful protest with a view to identifying and dismantling the IPOC cells that were used to trigger mayhem in Lagos State. The resolution of the participants of the March for Nigeria Town Hall meeting will resolve as follows. 1. March for Nigeria will actively track the implementation of the reforms agreed by the federal government and will make necessary suggestions for modification and expansions as may be necessary, with an insistence that there must be timelines and milestones to ensure that the process is not stalled. All protests relating to Endsars are hereby suspended going forward, while the youth embrace constructive engagement with the government with a view to giving time for the implementation of reforms. To ensure transparency, details of engagement with government will be shared in real time using the advantage of virtual platforms. March for Nigeria hereby calls on the international community and all the international media that reported hoax about the Endsars protests to fact-check and publish retractions to their misleading reports. March for Nigeria demand that the United States, United Kingdom, France, Canada, the European Union, the United Nations, African Union, International Criminal Court, Amnesty International, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, members of US Congress, members of the UK Parliament, and foreign celebrities that had recriminated Nigeria should withdraw their misguided statement and stick to facts in the future. March for Nigeria will set up a support system to provide counseling, emotional support, and treatment for Endsars protesters who may be suffering psychological disconnection from reality and post-traumatic stress disorder in the wake of their failed attempt to sabotage Nigeria. DJ Switch will be prioritized for this PTSD treatment, owing to the fundamental fact that of the tendencies she is exhibiting, which makes it necessary to recommend that she and others like her be placed on suicide watch. It is with this submission that I hereby present the communique which was reached at the end of this town hall meeting. Fellow Nigerian youth, great Nigerian youth, those in support for the adoption of the communique which I have just presented should say aye. Those against the adoption of this communique should say nay.
The stream caught it and posted online that is the massacre. So for me, I'm not sure there is any massacre. Yeah. Sorry? What's your name? My name is Muhammad Garba. I represent a group. Yeah. A group. Yeah. The one that just left down?